Museveni's motorcade was pelted with stones. He faces charges of treason. Well, now Bobi Wine is focusing his attention on the Ugandan government's newly proposed regulations for artists. I spoke to him earlier on this week about his recovery and also his political ambition. The last time we spoke, you had just been tortured. You had come to the US for medical treatment. How are you doing now, and are you still being harassed?
I'm glad to say I'm getting physically better. Of course, I am still being harassed at home, but I like not to focus on my harassment as a person. I like to focus on the oppression of the entire population.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that while the world looks at my brutalization and personal oppression, I know that millions of people go through similar oppression or even worse in Uganda. So I want to use my circumstances to propel that voice so that the world does not only see my oppression but looks at the oppression of all my countrymen and women.
You've become an opposition figure. You are an opposition figure. You're also a musician. And I see that the Ugandan government is trying to regulate the music industry, signing codes of ethics for musicians. Is this aimed at you? Is this censorship? Is there some sort of political motivation behind this?
Well, the regime in Uganda has always used various approaches to curtail personalities. We must remember that the Public Order Management Act was brought to combat the opposition leader then, Dr. Kizza Besigye, and indeed after the rise of myself, many initiatives have been put in place by the regime to try to curtail us. So the regulations that are being proposed today in Uganda are actually called by the population the anti-Bobi Wine regulation. After noticing that music has played a big role in the opening of the minds and eyes of the people, the regime seeks to regulate it. So they have intended to bring these ridiculous regulations where an artist has to surrender the script of their work before they can record it or put it in practice, and indeed a very laughable law where an artist must get permission from the government before he or she can travel and perform outside the country. Having blocked my concerts and abolished my music, the regime gets surprised to see that I can still musically communicate to the population back home when I perform outside. For example, when I went to Kenya and performed, and when I went to Jamaica and performed, millions and millions of people, especially young people in Uganda, were listening and following me.
You talk about censorship, essentially, of musical lyrics, of musicians. We're also talking about tax on social media. What next, then? What is the next phase for Bobi Wine in Uganda?
Well, we realize that Ugandans cannot be free unless if they free themselves from military rule, from lawless rule. And all that is being championed by President Museveni, who has been in power for the last 33 years and not seeming to want to give Uganda any opportunity for peaceful transition, for peaceful change. So we started a campaign a few months ago calling upon all people of Uganda, especially the young people that have been so apathetic about elections, to go ahead and register themselves and be voters, not just supporters, but voters. And indeed, since the campaign started, we've had a huge response. So many people have been able to register as voters. We believe that by the time we get to the elections, which is about 2 years away, we will have many Ugandans registered as voters, and overwhelming Museveni looks like our only way out.
So do you see yourself challenging President Museveni?
Well, this question has come up so many times, and indeed many people have come to me calling for me to stand. We have been discussing this issue with my team, and I must say I and my team, we are seriously considering challenging President Museveni in the next presidential election.
Bobi Wine there speaking to me a little